The Associated Press is reporting that the United Nations removed Saudi Arabia from its list of human rights violators of children. So let me explain what this means. Following a vehement protest from Saudi Arabia, Secretary General Ban Ki-moon removed the Saudi-led coalition fighting Shia rebels in Yemen from a list of government forces that committed grave violations against children last year. They say the UN verified a total of nearly 2,000 kids killed and injured in 2015. About 60% of those casualties were attributed to the coalition. The UN said it also verified 101 attacks on schools and hospitals last year. Wowzers. So, we know that Saudi Arabia has purposely attacked schools and hospitals. We know that 2,000 kids were killed and injured, and they went to the UN and said, oh, take us off that list that explains the facts of what we did, because we don't want to be on that list anymore. At first, the UN was like, whoa, no, these are facts. But then Saudi Arabia said, oh, that's cute. We will withhold a lot of the funding that we give to the UN if you don't take us off the list. So what did they do? They took them off the list. It's actually very similar to what they did for Israel a few years ago. So look at what happens. I mean, the people who get to pretend like they have the moral high ground are the people with the most money, and they get to determine the winners and the losers, and they get to determine the human rights violators and the ones who are upholding the law, even if that has nothing to do with the reality of the situation. So facts be damned, numbers be damned. We are the good guys by definition, says Saudi Arabia, and the UN complies because they get money from them. And for those of you who don't know, Saudi Arabia heads the UN Human Rights Panel. That's beyond ridiculous. Saudi Arabia has the same ideology as ISIS. They're a Salafi state. They're a theocracy. They're deeply authoritarian. I mean, they behead people for sorcery and witchcraft. Literal beheadings in 2016. Sorcery, witchcraft, drug smuggling. They say all atheists are terrorists. They've banned even liberal interpretations of Islam. So, I mean, to have them control the UN, and to have them on the Human Rights Panel, and to have them change the results of what's supposed to be just facts about who's doing what around the world, that shows you that the UN needs reform immediately, or else they just risk being totally blown off in every way. Because it's not actually about international law. It's not actually about human rights and altruism and humanitarianism. It's obviously just politics as usual and business as usual. And this is why, the U.S., for example, since we're buddy-buddy with Saudi Arabia, we're really close allies, this is why it's hard to make moral arguments in favor of U.S. intervention when we turn the other way at some of the biggest human rights violators on the planet. So, no, you shouldn't do this. You should keep their name on the list, and you need to reform the UN because you can't have human rights violators deciding who is and isn't a human rights violator. I mean, that's like the definition of a conflict of interest.